there. Hello, hello. Happy Friday night and round two of our mixed media art journaling March series getting started. So welcome, friends. Hello. How you doing tonight? Are you excited and ready to go? I see that I'm live on my laptop, so I think that you guys can see me. So yay! How we doing? I'm so very excited. Me too. And I'm excited, and the ideas are literally like so many are going through my head, and this is why I think this is muy importante. Very important to break this down into bite-sized pieces. So if you're reading the prompts, if you got the newsletter, or if you've seen it on my socials, make sure that if you haven't already to join the private Facebook group on Facebook, the VBoo Creative Community, because I want us to share. I want you to share what you're doing. I want you to share your setup. So show me how you're storing all of your little bits, not bits and bytes, because I don't really want you to eat any of this, but how you're storing everything as you make. I want to see, because I feel like a big part of this is the community, and sharing really can prompt us or give us a new way to look at things. And that's the best part of having this creative community, is that all of us are going to approach this differently, and that's where the learning will come from. So a big part of this, another big part, there's lots of big parts, is not everything that you do should be one and done. I want these to be studies. So you're given a prompt, and that prompt could be 10 pages in your art journal. Could be 10 pages in your art journal using different mediums, seeing how the mediums interact. All of the learning and the improving and discovery will come from practice and play. It's a big part of this. It is not like other crafts that we do. Well, all of them, I think there's like a learning curve, but with art, the learning curve is the best part. And it's not homework per se, it's discovery. It really is discovering new things, and just with me writing down, so because I feel like I'm guiding the charge. I think that makes sense. That I have to kind of, my brain goes and cycles through all the ideas. So if you give me one idea, as I sit and think about that and plan things, 50 ideas can come from this. I think that that's one of my kind of little, my creative superpowers is that it ideas sprout. It's like you plant the seed and it germinates into like a beautiful forest of rainbows and colors and all these ideas that I come up with. And that can be a good thing, and it can also hinder us creatively, because you have to start somewhere. And if I start with that seed, it germinates and I've already have this whole forest, but I need to nurture the seed, the first thing, before I'm looking at, right? To see, what is it? See the forest for the trees. What is this saying? So I really feel like that can be something that's great, and it can be, for me, it's where like, oh man, I don't even know where to start. Or now I have all these ideas, like how do I break this down into bite-sized pieces? So let's talk about some things, because my trusty sidekick Natalie is here. Natalie D'Souza, to Cheetah Girl on all the socials. She's sharing stuff, typing, because she is very good at helping me organize my thoughts, because that's what I said. It just, anybody who's spent time with me, and if we start talking about things, it just kind of blows up. So I want to make sure that we put everything where we can find it on that Facebook group. So I will start an album every single time with the image from the YouTube video that we can go and share. So when I said I want to see how your tool's set up, what your tool setup is, that album's already set up on the VBoo Creative Community. After tonight, I will do the swatching album, and but who knows, Natalie could have done it. She's good like that. But I want you to share, and if you put your stuff in the album, it's really easy to find. You can post it all over the board as well if you want to do both things. I'm totally okay with that. Look, I always say I'm your crafting Yoda. I'm not the boss of you. So I just want you to post. I want to see what you're making. with that being said, tonight is about swatching. So again, with keeping this in bite-sized pieces, I went with a 5-color palette. Could you use a 3-color palette? You sure could. Can you use a 10-color palette? You can, but again, you want this to be bite-sized pieces, and this is really more discovery and just planting those seeds before we get to nurturing this huge forest of art, journaling, and mixed media. So with that being said, I have my 5 colors. I want to swatch everything, and then I want to do some color mixing. So swatching is going to be where we just paint a brush stroke of it. Swatching could be stamping a shape and then painting inside of it. You could just use your waterproof pen and you could make squares and you can swatch your watercolor in that. I would also like to maybe do some 2-color studies with a watercolor. So we put 2 colors beside, and in the middle, we can mix those 2 to make secondary colors. We can look at tertiary colors. So I'm going to get you started tonight. This whole idea is let's get started, but I'm probably going to work more on my own, because what's going to end up happening is as we sit and play, I'm going to have all these ideas. So one of the things I think is important on this journey as we kick off this whole kind of art journaling, and for some of you, maybe you've never done this before, and art journaling can mean lots of things. We can do, when you sit down and watch people who are seasoned art journalers or do this all the time and it is their main form of expressing their art, they will do a background, a base, they'll break the page, they will then maybe do gel plate printing on top of it, they might do some collage, they might decoupage on top of it, they might get their paints out and then their inks out and then their oil pastels, and then they might seal that and then layer on top, because that's the magic of art. It's all about layers. That's a lot, and it's a lot when you don't really have a full understanding yet of how the mediums work, or even how to break a page, or letting go. That's a big part, letting go and just seeing what you make and knowing it's just a piece of paper in your time. It is totally okay if you love your results, if you're just okay with your results, or if you hate your results. I want you to keep all of it, because we can find ways to use all of it. And like I said, you will learn more doing it yourself than just listening to me tell you how to do the things. So with that being said, this whole idea is very general, basic shapes, exploration of different ways to do things, where it could be a resist technique, it could be layering, it could be putting white on top of a whole mixed media, mixed color background. We're going to do lots of things, and we're just going to start. We're going to start by swatching your products, seeing how it works. I'm happy to have you here. We probably will have a lot of new people here. So definitely say hi. Let us know that you're here. If you have questions, just put question out there. This is live, so if we have any kind of technical difficulties, I'll just restart the feed. But I think we should be okay, because I've said it, and knocking on wood, it should be good. I'm going to flip the camera now because I want to get right into this and let your questions fly. Let me know what you're thinking. I have started prepping my album. My album is not a traditional art journal. I have one here because I'm going to work in 2. I'm going to kind of put my questions. This is going to be open. I'm going to write notes in it. Everything that I'm like, ooh, what if I did this? I'm going to put it in here so I remember, because the ideas will just start flowing. I have taken a whole bunch of different papers and I have cut them, and I'm going to make it a ring journal. So I can pull pages in, pull pages out, whatever I want to do. Is this the only way? No. I want down the road, when we're like a year into this, or if I end up doing this class that I'm talking about, I want to do bookbinding. I want to make our own journals, because I think that's fun, that we could make our own journals from art supplies. You could purchase, there's a number of different journals out there. When I flip the camera, tell me. I want to know what you're using. That's part of the part. Like when we go to share the things, tell me what journal did you buy? What do you love about it? What don't you love about it? Because this helps your fellow VBoo artists here that are going to be creating and doing the things. So I have a lot to talk about, but I want to be doing stuff while we're talking. The whole thing that kind of prompted this and really made me want to do this is it's good for your mental health. If you have ADHD, or you suffer from depression, or you just are kind of in a funk, or you're so happy you want to put your joy on paper, this is a great way that you could take 15 minutes out of your day, come home from work, and maybe it was a bad day or maybe it was a great day, and you want to take 15 minutes to just kind of empty that out on a page. This is good. It's good for our mental health. The other thing is it's a good kickstart for making cards. If you're a card maker, altered projects, scrapbooking, practicing for your art journal if you really want to get into this and love this. And if not, your investment is time, and really the tools we're using are minimal. So I don't think you had to invest a ton of money in this. And even if you decide not to, everything that I've chosen as our basic toolkit, which is in a previous video from Wednesday. So if you're just joining me tonight and you didn't see that, you might want to watch that, where I walked through everything that we're using. All those tools can be used, and mediums can be used for something else. So I feel like it's a win-win. So let's flip the camera and get started. This isn't a pro setup, so I have to 100% Blair Witch you and jiggle you around. So just bear with me for a minute, and you might see up my nose, but it's all good, right? And let me flip the camera and let's get right into it. And I will answer that question in a sec. Boop. Because when I'm looking at the phone, I can't see you guys. So just give me 1 second. So I said, oh my goodness, the chat is moving. Question, what size did you cut your pages to? You know what I ended up doing? It's Janine, right? I use this punch, which I'm really digging. And I have about 50 of them. We are in the process of, Denise has been working at adding a whole bunch of stuff to the store. It's going to go up at some point next week. And I'm going to do a, like a whole sale for what we're doing. So let me show you. I moved it out of the way. So I have this We Are Memory Keeper punch, and it is for planners. So the size I went with on the back said a 7 by 9.5 inch. So if you're a planner person, that I think is a general planner size. So I went with that size, and this is the guide I used. So if you purchase one of those punches and you want to end up doing what I'm doing, is when you put the little pieces in here, and I'm going to do a whole video about this, so I won't get in too in depth. There's numbers on here, and you put the little guides in where you want them. You punch your page, and then you flip it, and it lined up, so I only had to take the additional, I think, remaining 4 out and punch the other holes. So I figured out the math to get it for 8 of the binding rings, okay? So I will do a whole little video about that. But I think I like this tool because I can use it for multiple things. And then I can opt to add the different types of paper I want to use. And then I even did things like this. Instead of cutting that edge off, I think that would be fun to leave on some of the pages, right? So I have cut up those papers that I showed you in the first, where it was a mixed media paper. There is foundations paper in here and watercolor paper. And I could add whatever I want, but remember, it's just some place to start. So I will be listing those. I will be listing all of the planner discs that I have, but if you do a Google search, you'll be able to find planner discs. And then the whole idea, right, is that I can just add like this. And then my book is going to be, it's not going to be perfect, but I love that this will contain it. You could put it on a jump ring. You don't have to make it a book, whatever you want to do, okay? So that's the size I'm using. That's what I've prepped so far, because it's all going to be kind of a work in progress. I have a stack of large tags. It's perfect, Karen. That's what your journal's going to be, or your book. You can do this on there. I am very much there are no rules. Use what you have, right? Use what you have. The biggest thing, my suggestion would be, is definitely practice with the different papers, because you're going to get different results from different papers. The heavier the weight, the better. I think that's going to be super helpful. So as I was playing along, right, I've prepped these papers. I love these clips. I think I bought them at, I think, who was with me? I think Kari maybe was even with me. I bought them at Winners, Home Sense, one of those places, like where the chip aisle and everything is. And I think they were $6 for the whole pack. And if you're using a traditional journal like this, having those bulldog clips are super helpful, because when you're working, you can do this and it keeps your page open, right? So definitely worth investing in those. TJ Maxx. Yep, got them at TJ Maxx. They were $6.99. Question: do you have to label which paper is which, or are you going to put dividers in? I'm going to mix it all over the place, Tisha. I'm going to mix it, try different things. Like I said, every technique and prompt that I give you, when I sit down and do it with you, we might do one or two. And then I am going to, while I'm doing it, if I practice and play, I'm going to film them and then put them in just proper YouTube videos where it'll show you like different ways that I've done that. Because like say circles, I might use that like 5 different ways in this journal. Because we're not layering, I'm not going to be putting stamping, I'm not finishing these, because we can revisit that in part 2. We can take every background that we make, because it's all we're doing really are backgrounds. And then we can do, the next layer can be collage, stamping, decorating, using words, whatever you want to do. But the whole idea with this is just, it's somewhere to start. And I think that's important, because a lot of you, when you look at videos online or watch YouTube videos, you're kind of looking in the middle. You're not seeing the progression and how all of this starts. And I think that can be a hindrance if you don't feel super confident about doing this type of art. So like I said, we're going to keep it. It's going to be pretty basic, right? How many pages should my journal be? As many pages as you want to use. And you might end up buying a traditional journal and end up needing a second one. There are 0 rules. So don't put up any kind of roadblocks to your creativity. Your whole goal is going to be just do the things. And you know it's my mantra. Just do the things. It's a piece of paper in your time. So I want that to be your biggest takeaway. So who joining me tonight is a little excited but a little nervous or apprehensive about the whole thing? Or are you already kind of putting, like trying to make rules, like set up rules for all of this? I want you to understand, there are no rules for this. We're just going to do it. I love it, Maureen, and I love it. Wave that hand in the air like you just don't care. Because I think that's a big part of doing artful techniques is people get really nervous about doing it. And what we're going to talk about tonight is color mixing. That's one of the things that can be a hindrance when you're using wet mediums and mixing them together. That maybe you want a really bright and cheerful background and you end up with mud. That a lot of times, like easiest rule is when you mix 2 secondary colors together, that can lead to mud. So secondary colors, just kind of think about that, like orange and purple. Orange comes from, oh my goodness, yellow and red, right? Purple comes from red and blue. So when you mix those two together, sometimes you can get mud. It doesn't mean it has to be ugly mud. It just might be earthier, an earthier color. So things like that. Another thing I think is super helpful is I have a whole stack that I cut. These are foundations paper I had cut. I have stacks of tags and stuff around. It could be a set of tags. So when we start doing this, one of the fun things is going to be choosing your color palette. So won't it be fun to kind of pick 3 colors, 4 colors, 5 colors you want to use? And then with a paper clip, you could clip it to your page, because that's kind of, you could go through after tonight and do a whole bunch of these where you're like, they're my own color prompts. I want to do my own little tags of colors I'd like to see used together. So you can do your own little color prompts, and I'm going to do that. I think this is going to be fun. I'm telling you, we are, like, I feel like we're off to see the wizard, and we are just starting our journey on that yellow brick road. So don't you think this is a fun thing? So if you want to do it, I'll show you how I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to document and record everything that I do, even if it's just on my own and I put it in a reel or a short or add it as a video. So when I come back on Wednesday and I've had all those days to create art, and I have like 10 additional pages in my book that you have a reference point, that they're photographed, the steps are recorded, and you can see what I did. So how do you feel? How do you feel about all of that, friends? The other thing we didn't talk about, but I think is a great idea, is grabbing a low-tack tape, painter's tape, or washi tape, because sometimes you might want to take one of your pages. Let's just take a foundations. And maybe when you build it, you want to mask it so you have a clean, your art is in the middle of the page. So if we have like a low-tack tape, and we're going to do some techniques with tape too. So if you can find a really thin washi tape would be super cool. But some of your pages, you might decide you want to mask so that I don't have any painter's tape, so I'm using this washi. That's from one of my collections. That is not deciding to come off the roll, but you get the gist, right? So this isn't important for tonight, but down the road. So I just wanted you to have enough time. Oh, I'm going to find painter's tape because that's not coming apart. A low tack tape so that you can mask some of your pages, because that can be really pretty when all your art sits inside of it. Or maybe we even do a color wash and you want, say, that yellow in the background to be a frame, and you're going to mask some of your art. Also, when we get to doing the lines, that this is going to be helpful for masking. So you want a very thin low tack tape or washi tape, and then something you can mask your edges with. So I wanted you to add that to your thing. My album sizes are going to be 7 by 9.5, because I could cut it with my handy dandy planner tool. So 7 by 9.5. And then all the scraps, if it was a 12 by 12, cut up to use for tags. And also you can use those. Mint tape is great. Get some mint tape, get some really thin, any kind of low tack tape. Okay, so for a lot of you, you totally know what mint tape is. Other people who find us on YouTube might not know what that is. And you could just use painter's tape. You could go to the dollar store and even get painter's tape. Okay? And welcome back to my friend Valerie, who was in Italy. She went on a trip to celebrate her birthday, and she went all by herself because she is an amazing, brave, traveling woman, which I totally love, right? So hello and a belated happy birthday. Any questions before we get right into this? So for tonight, I'm going to mix. Hi, Irene. How are you? Mix different papers I'm going to use, right? Because when I use watercolor, maybe I want to swatch some watercolor on watercolor paper. Maybe I want to swatch it on a whole bunch of different things. So whatever you want to do, right? So really, I'm going to tell you, if it was me and I was trying to figure this out and you don't have a punch, you aren't going to buy it when I put it up for sale in my store, I would say just buy a proper art journal. Just go into an art supply store, look online, or I put links in. I put a link in for a bunch of stuff on Cherry on Top. I find for one of the stores I shop at that has lots of art supplies, Cherry on Top does. Okay, Cherry on Top. Happy birthday, Penny. So I just wanted to show you because I did get this to work because I'm not a quitter. And I just kind of stuck to it. That some of the stuff we do, this will be fun, that you could mask it. That is a tool, right? That's a tool for straight lines, for clean edges. Did I miss any questions? And now we're going to pick. I like the idea too, that I can do this all flat. And then I can put it in my book. When you check back, will I have? Yes. And will I have a completed journal? Yes. Will I make some kind of frame out of chipboard or cardboard? Yes. I will do all those things. But see, this will be fun when you go to create a page. If you want all of your art inside, can be really fun, especially when you're doing abstract art and mixed media. To have that clean white edge and all your magic going on in the center can be lots of fun. So I'm excited to get started. Question, where did you put the link to Cherry on Top? It's in the description of this video. If you can grab that, Natalie, and share it, that would be awesome. So the share sale links, I made a wish list. So let me know if it works, because I did a link to my wish list. So I just listed a whole bunch of stuff I thought was really cool. And if that's helpful, then that will be great. Okay, so with that being said, the purpose with swatching is if you get any kind of new medium or paint, ink pad, I think it's very smart to swatch it. My friend Lil Conkar, that I don't know if she's here, she said she was going to be here earlier or at the beginning, has a great set of stamps for swatching that are kind of geared to a lot of different things. So you can look at that. There's lots of different swatching stamps. For tonight, I want to keep it super simple because not everybody has that. And I don't feel like you have to rush out to buy something, but if you want to. So for my inks, I'm just going to pick one stamp image that I'm going to use. So I want to pick something that will show lots of ink, but still is pretty. And I'm going to stamp that using the inks. So I want to show my inks stamped, and I'm going to write the colors. Okay, I am going to take this stamp from this Tim Holtz set, which is Grunged CMS 402, and it's a little circle. And I'm going to take that because I can paint my watercolor in it, or I can color in my paint markers in that. So I think that'll be fun to just have something super basic. Remember I had a stamp block in my tools? Now where is it? I ask. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. I'm just blind. So maybe I'm going to use that, right? So I'll put that on there. I'll pick a butterfly. And this set is Moth Study. Lil Conkar is here. Hello, Lil. I need share sale links to Lil's site. Because I'll be sending lots of you guys there because she's got some good stuff. So I'll put that on there too. Okay. The other thing you could use if you don't have a stamp is find a little circle. It could be the lid of your water bottle. You could ink that and you could stamp a circle. You can just draw it with a waterproof pen. You could just draw it with a waterproof pen. So I think the easiest thing to start with will be ink. I find that it is a stable medium. It's not a wet medium. I don't think that it will make people terrified. So I think starting with the ink is going to be the easiest way. The other thing that you could use is any kind of stencil, like that might be great, where I could just take my pen and I could trace inside, just like back in school, right? And then that could be my guide. So the biggest thing I take away here is we're going to use what we have, right? We're going to use what we have. You don't have to rush out and find something. I don't want you to feel pressured. That's a fun one. So the little brush marks. I think, like everything, the big takeaway with this is limit your choices. Don't try to do everything in one step. So if you feel comfortable with that, at least I've given you an idea, right? Do you feel like you have an idea? An idea of where to start? There's lots of different things. So if I want another solid circle, I have that. So circle, butterflies, kind of paint strokes are going to be my jam. Something like this could be fun. Anything that you have that's kind of solid, so when you go to stamp it, you can see the color, okay? I think it is public though, Lisa. I'll look at it, okay? I'm new to that. I just know that my friend Shamel does that. And I thought, what a great way if I just do a wish list and then we don't have to do individual links. So I'll look at it. I'm new, so I'll figure it out. Okay, so I can go on that, or if one of you guys out there know how to do that, I will look into it and update the list, okay? It's not important tonight, but by tomorrow I'll have an answer for you, okay? Thank you for letting me know though, because I wouldn't know either way, otherwise. All of my videos, all the lives are available to watch later, Alice. So with the ink, could you do this when you go to swatch? You could do it on every single paper that you're using if you mixed your papers, right? You could end up doing it on all of the papers. Or you could just do it on one. Like your journal might only have one kind of paper. Because I made my journal, I'm using a whole bunch of different papers, right? So let's go with, I might decide for scale, just for the size of my page. I'll do it in butterflies. I'm gonna, because I can do what I want, right? I'm the boss of me. So regular distress ink, I never use for stamping. It beads up on your stamps. It's not the best for stamping, but just for fun, we're gonna do it. I got a decent image out of that. So that is my, this is my palette too, if you didn't see the other one. So I have Fossilized Amber. It's one of my favorite colors. I'm gonna use that. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to do them in, I'm hoping I can fit, like doing it some kind of way right across the page, because that's my thing, is this is too big that I won't be able to fit all 5 across the page, but we'll just do it kind of artsy, okay? So the next color I'm using is Spice Marmalade. Give me an idea of what your palette's going to be, friends. I'm very curious to know what your palette is going to look like. Did you go with something that you could mix the colors? Did you go with something monochromatic? Did you go with something very neutral? What is your palette? So Fossilized Amber, Spice Marmalade, Picked Raspberry, and I'm doing this live with you guys, so there's pressure sometimes, right? My friend Lil does listing. I should have done it this way. Wouldn't that have made sense? Right? If I should have gone down the page this way. But I did what I did, so now I'll just stick with it. That is Picked Raspberry. Yes, I'm going to add a, take the image from this video, Natalie, and I will add a album. And then I went with Mermaid Lagoon, and I'm sticking to what I have. The palette I picked is the palette that is going to stay, if that makes sense. I'm keeping this palette. So I love this. It's very rainbow, which is kind of my jam, right? These are regular distress inks, which are more transparent. I like to do a lot of techniques with them. They're water reactive, so you can get some really pretty stuff. And then, so are you, anybody working along with me? I want you to just go in. Like I said, I might end up redoing any of these pages. Like it could end up happening, right? And that is my prize ribbon. So this is all in regular distress. Now I'm going to go through and do it in my oxide. I'm going to use the exact same stamps. I love that. So you're using a dark blue, turquoise, olive, magenta, and orange. I can't wait to see what you end up with. So let's go in now and do it with our oxides. And then I'm going to write the color names underneath. Like I said, I'll probably come back and do this page and I'll go down the page like this because it would make more sense. Or you could even turn it if you wanted to and do it like that. There's no rules. No rules. But there's nothing wrong with redoing any of the stuff that we start with, right? So I'm going to go in here now. So you'll see that your oxide ink is better for stamping because it is not as transparent. and I think it just covers the stamp much nicer. These are red rubber stamps, which are my favorite for mixed media. I know my friend Lil likes to use oxide inks for her stamping too. What about you guys? Do you use oxide inks or do you use Gina K? Do you have a favorite stamping ink that you use? Natalie works for lots of different stamp companies. What are your favorites? Nat, look it. But I love this, makes me happy. It's just kind of getting you warmed up, rolling into doing the technique stuff, right? You're stamping along. I love it. What stamp shapes have you chosen? What are you guys using? The other thing that's kind of fun is this is still, it's going to end up looking a little artsy too, right? The page is going to be pretty. Butterfly, I love it. And the reason too that I stick with my Tim Holtz and Ranger is because I love the color palette. So if I want to add a new picked raspberry in a paint, in a spray, in an oxide, in a crayon, I know that the colors will match. So I love that it just completes my palette. Does that make sense? You're using a circle with combination of distress and oxides, as I don't have every color in every line. I totally understand that. You know, because you've been around for a long time, Carrie, that of course I have every single color because I love them. Now I know a lot of people when oxides came out got rid of their distress inks because they're like, oh, I love these inks so much better. And for me, I'm like, they do different things. So I need both. I need both. So doesn't that feel good right off the bat? And these pages are going to go in there and they're going to be kind of my ingredients page. Look at these swatching pages kind of as your ingredients, right? You love your oxides. And you know, if you've been following me for a long time, if I'm doing wet techniques, I am definitely a distress ink girl. The oxides will take a little longer to dry. So if you want to go in and write your colors on there, just be careful you don't drag your arm through it because they do take a little bit longer to set up, right? So there. I could have inked that stamp up better, but it is what it is, and I'm totally okay with that. So what ended up happening, Beth? Did you get rid of? I know a lot of people when oxides came out that they got rid of all their distress ink because they're like, this is a way better ink. And I'm like, it's just different. It's not better. It's just different. It does different things, right? I'm missing so much stuff. You're using prize ribbon, salvage patina, mowed lawn, mustard seed, and picked raspberry, spice marsh. So 1, 2, 3. Do you have 5, or are you going with a bigger palette? I'm getting some wipes. A second here. So now my thought is, when this dries, I'm going to go in there and start writing my colors down, right? So you could have done it before. I can also get rid of nothing. I agree, but use it too, right? And I hope that this is one of those things. You couldn't stop with 5. I get it. Like I said, I teach mixed media classes, and that's often what ends up happening, right? Is that people they love all the colors. So go for it. So this one is fossilized. I want to make sure I spell everything right. Fossilized amber. And then we have spiced marmalade. And then we have picked raspberry. And then we have Mermaid Lagoon, which look at, you know I'm going to end up doing this again, right? Mermaid Lagoon, and then Prized Ribbon. So there are other things that we could swatch in here. How do you feel? Right? This could be my distress ink page. Now we could do something where, because it's a study, it's kind of like an ink study. You could take your ink blending tool and you could rub, we could put a stencil on and you could stencil the colors, because these inks, like that's stamped. It's one way to use it. I predominantly would blend these with an ink blending tool, right? That's how I would use them. So we could put a stencil on and we could stencil. That might be, I'm trying to think of the easiest way. So you could go in, right? And then stencil your colors and stencil your color. You could watermark this. So it could be multiple pages just for your distress ink, right? I need a stamp in your handwriting of the Tim Holtz colors. That would be fun, Robin. Remind me of that. Make a note of that. That's actually a fun thing, right? That I could do that for when you go to put it in, is that it would be like on my, because I want to do one. I've hand drawn it. I just haven't put it into production. That I would like a swatching set and a hand drew. I just drew things. But that is really funny. So do you see what I'm saying? When we look at just distress, is they're all going to react differently. You can blend your regular distress to create secondary, tertiary colors, but you can't really do that with oxide. Have you ever done it when you can blend it so it's a smooth blend, but it doesn't really make a secondary color because one will negate the other? But when you go in with, if I ink blend fossilized amber and spice marmalade, I will get a more tangerine, like a more yellowy orange color, right? If I went and blended picked raspberry and prized ribbon, I can get a purple. So this is what I'm saying, that they'll blend the oxides, but when we start doing techniques, we can make secondary colors with regular distress because the nature of the ink, right? This is a blend, a combo ink, and this one is a dye base, right? Dye base, and then I always will forget, dye and pigment. It's a blend of dye and pigment, so totally different. So oxide blends beautifully, but if you're a technique girl like me, I love the translucency and transparency of distress, and I like that when I blend it, I can get a secondary color. An 80s girl with handwriting is very similar. Yes, right? I just sat and wrote everything. My friend Lail's the same. So, do you see what I'm saying? So here's one of those things we're talking about already in your notebook, if you're taking notes. When you are swatching, here are the different things I would swatch with my distress ink. I am going to end up doing, as I play with this, because I might have 3 pages of just swatches, 4 pages of just swatches, is that I want to take this and I want to blend with an ink blending tool to see. So let's just do some things. I'm going to switch it and do it on the back side of this page. You ready? So there's my little and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So when you get into, we'll just do, this going to be regular distress on this side, okay? And I wash, these are all washed. I just use the same. One day, Lil has great system for your blending tools and storage for that stuff. So definitely check that out. She has a great system for that. and I'm going to buy it so that I can do it. But right now, this is how I use it. So I'm going to go in with fossilized amber, and I'm going to do a couple different things, okay? I'm going to take it. Here's the biggest thing too. If you are newer to distress, you need the domed foams, or a lot of people love their blending brushes for inks so that you don't get the hard lines when you're blending it. The paper you're using can also affect your blend. This is foundations paper, so it has a coating on it. So when I go to blend, say, this is my fossilized amber, I get a nice blend. That's one of the magics of this paper, right? So I want to do something like this. And I'm going to do that at the top, right? And then the other thing that I'm going to do is pick a stencil. And I'm going to throw that on there. And I'm going to take that. And then I'm also going to blend a pattern. Okay. I'm going to take my spice marmalade next. And I'm going to blend that over my fossilized amber, and also on its own. So now I can see those two colors. I'm using foundations paper here, correct? Yes. And the reason being is another thing you could try is like a hot press watercolor paper, but it just gives me a nice blend. So now I can see where those two colors have blended and the nice color that they make, right? I'm going to go in now with the picked raspberry. You see where this could be like multiple things, because you could be blending out anything that you want, right? So I'm going to go in with a picked raspberry. And I'm going to blend that. I can also blend it with some of the mustard, not mustard seed, fossilized amber. And then you can see that when you blend that, you can get a secondary color there. And a lot of times I'll go over it with the other color to get a truer blend. So see, I can start making an orange. Look at that pretty color, right? So I have I've done these, well, this one, yep, I've done that. And then we could get into some Mermaid Lagoon. Blend this one. Let's see what kind of color, because this is kind of a secondary color mixed with a secondary color. So really, this should give me a little bit of an earthier shade, shouldn't it? Right there. It's greenish, but it might give me a little bit. Oh, look at that color I'm getting. Would you have expected that? I am using foundations paper for this one. So now I am going to blend through my stencil too. So I used a stencil that I could line up and position again. It just might take a second. This is one of mine, okay? And now I'm going to go into my Mermaid Lagoon. I went a little high. Did you notice that? Don't do that. Don't do that. But I should get a beautiful purple now, shouldn't I? And then where it's blending into the other two colors, it will start to show you. Oops, don't do that either. Look at the colors that we're making as they blend through. So now we only have, I'm only using 5, right? So I am going to put at the side here my prize ribbon. Look at that, right? So look at the colors that we're making, because now this picked raspberry blended also with fossilized amber gives us this beautiful color. And then look at when it's blending over, there's 2 color blend here and it goes on top. This is the magic of distress ink as opposed to oxide, because we'll do this with oxide as well. But do you see what I'm saying? Look at the blends we're getting. So in here, it's a 1 color primary. Then you were getting a secondary color. We're getting a tertiary color because now it's a 3 blend right here. Look at, it's a 3 blend right here. So this is fun. This is a fun thing to do. And I really believe this should be revisited multiple times, moving your colors around. And when we're done, you're going to go in there and you're going to write your color and then the initials. And then you can do a circle. Like you could even take your stencil. Look at, see? Remember what I said is the magic of all of this. What ends up happening is the ideas start popping into your head. So this is what ideas just popped into my head with this whole kind of color mix. So here I'm going to write a circle and I'm going to say that I have, here is a secondary color where the 2 mixed. This is going to be a secondary color where the 2 mixed, giving me this purple. Right? And I can put the initials in here. And then we can also overlap our circle and say, look at, this is where we start to get a tertiary color where 3 colors are mixing. Right down here, we have like a secondary and tertiary. So I just think this helps you visually kind of break that down. We start breaking that down, right? This could be a whole class just on its own, is blending distress ink. Because now when I show you with the oxide, it's going to be a whole different thing. The other thing, muy importante, is you cannot use the same blending foam for oxide and distress. You will contaminate your pad. Okay, distress oxide, each color needs its own foam. You can mix your distress, but you won't get a pure color, right? It won't be in the purest form. So let's go in. The only color we haven't used yet is our prize ribbon. So if you did a 6th color, you could totally do that, right? You could totally do that. I'm not lying when I said I'm going to end up making, this is going to end up being, we're going to, just the tip of the iceberg, but I'm going to do a whole class. I just have to figure out how to house it, how to do all of it, but it is definitely on the Vicky Booten wish list, is doing a whole class about mixed media, color theory. It's just going to be the art journaling class. And my friend Lael, who's super smart, said I think it's a great place to start, because then people will have kind of their mixed media art journaling Bible, like a reference. And then what they can do, well, look at that color we're going to get out of those two too, is I can just add, what did you call it, Lael? Like when I do like a new class or come up with a new idea, I can just add like pieces that add on instead of doing like a whole new class. So look at, I'm going to place my stencil again. And now I only corrupted everything because I have to line it all up. And I put those circles on and now it makes me blind. But I found it. And let's go in here now. With the stencil. So it's only blue on the end, right? It's only the prize ribbon down here. I'll tell you, this prize ribbon, I know, is a little bit dry. I can feel it. But one of the things that I want you to see is go over the colors, layer your colors to really start the blend. You need to kind of layer your color. Do you know what I'm saying? Like layer them back and forth to see what your next new color is going to be. So let's do it. What else do we have? This one. And what are we going to get when we blend that with the prize ribbon? So look at that. So when it is the picked raspberry with the prize ribbon, we get this kind of deeper purple, like a blue purple. But when I mix that prize ribbon and it blends in a little bit with the Mermaid Lagoon, I get a whole different purple, almost a redder purple, right? So I just think, here's the whole thing is, if you're joining me and you're, for the most part, a scrapbooker, and mixed media you're doing because Vicki, you're like, I just follow Vicki and I do what she tells me. But I wouldn't have seen the value in it without this. Isn't purpose driven. It's literally, there's so much value just in education, right? And just in trying the things and seeing what you discover. There's value in that. It is not only about finished projects. How many pages you can get on a layout, right? How many cards you made at the crop. Sometimes it is all about just learning through practice and play. It's a piece of paper in your time, right? And then go in here and just for reference, you can make notes on what color layered. Does that make sense? Maybe one down here. So I would go on here again and write, right, that this is prize ribbon. This one was, and don't forget, it will transfer on your hands, so just be careful because it's wet. Yes, and that is, if you're new to this, you could use a makeup sponge, but when you're ready to invest, you want to have the blending tools. And I'll tell you why. Use a makeup sponge, but you're going to get lines. It will give you lines in the ink. This blends beautifully. I like for my distress ink, I am of the school of the blending foam. Domed blending foam, not the flat ones, because it's a game changer. And the minis are great too, right? So with this now go in, right, and put picked raspberry. Raspberry. And then what was this one? Fossilized amber. Fossilized amber. Down here was spiced marmalade. Down here was, oh my goodness, Mermaid Lagoon. this is prize ribbon still, just so we know. So what you could do, because this might be easier, why don't we number them? So then we'll put 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is 5. And then you can go in here and you can say that this is 1 and 3, 1 plus 3, right? This is 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2, and then look at, there's some 3 in here too, plus 3. Do you see what I'm saying? So it helps you if you're like, now I have a reference if I want to make that color, but I don't own the color, that this is how you get them. One of the most exciting things is color exploration and color theory and blending colors, right? So if you go in here right now, you know, so what is this one? Right in here, it is 3 and 4. 3 plus 4, right? But then you get down here and you have 4 plus 2. Look at that. And then there's even, here is a little bit of 1 and 3 up here. Yes, right, Lil? And you see what I'm saying? Because even my friend Lil Konkar, who is incredibly talented, but mixed media isn't necessarily her forte, or she has a distress ink and uses oxides, but she makes beautiful stamps and it's a stamping. But there's just this whole world. And to me, I just feel like this is good. Just me doing this and it's just playing. I feel better. It makes me feel better. I just think it is great for the mind, body, and spirit. It is my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Look at 3 and 5 right there. Then you get into here. This is still 3 and 5, right? Right? And then 4 plus 5. 4 plus 5. But then this one is 4, 5, and 3. So I just want you to go through, and I think that this is a really fun way to do things, right? So this other thing you need to put on here is that this is distress ink. So I challenge you on the page that goes beside it, right? So I would take a second page, and in my homework, so if I'm sitting and I have time to do this on Saturday or a little bit of time to do it on Sunday, I'm going to do this exact same task now with distress oxide. And I want you to see how these inks will react completely different. And you know what? I will start probably with the blue and work my way backwards, because I also want this to look like a piece of art. I also want this to look like a piece of art. But big thing is clean your blending tool between your ink blends, because you don't want to contaminate your pads. Can you see how this one already picked up the prize ribbon? So I buy these, right? Flour sack cloths, and just take your blending tool between your colors and just wipe it off, so you're not contaminating. So you get, when you go to use this with prize ribbon, you get just prize ribbon. Okay, so I'm not going to do all this now, but it's going to be one of my homework steps, right? That's one of my homework steps. Is there anything else we want to add maybe to our page? Because this is going to be our distress ink page. One of the things I want to talk about is pick one color. I'm going to go, I think, with picked raspberry. And I want to show a blend of picked raspberry, distress ink, and picked raspberry oxide. Because when you're doing your little thing here, I want you to see how the nature of these two inks are different. Sound like a good plan? And we'll do watermarking as well. Okay, so we'll carry that color here, and then I'll do a second one with watermarking. No, let's carry right down the page. Pick whichever color makes you happy. Not too light. Don't go with your lightest color because you won't get, the contrast just doesn't show as much. Okay, so I am going to change my blending tool. And I'm going to show you two other things. Okay, so I want to clean that one off. It has a lot of there we go. Okay, so I'm going to take this. I'm going to move this page. And let's do a blend. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. Let's blend and also use a stencil. So I'll grab a different stencil. I want something pretty open. So we'll do this one that is kind of like a scripty one, okay? So I'm going to take regular distress and I'm going to do a blend of just regular distress. Watch how dirty your fingers are too. So here's another magic thing about distress ink. You can get multiple shades of it by letting this first layer dry and then adding some more. If you want to build the depth of distress, you can't do it wet on wet. I would put this on, I'd let it dry or give it a little blast with my heat gun and then layer it on top. Even with oxide, if you want to build the depth of the color, if you build wet on wet, all you end up doing is pilling your paper. You need to dry a layer and then build the next layer on top. It's the same if I painted my wall with acrylic paint. If you roll another layer right on top while that base layer is still wet, you're just lifting the color off. Have you ever done that? What kind of house painter are you? Do you put a ton of paint on your roller and try to roll it out till that roller's bone dry? Or do you put a nice thin coat on, let it dry, and come back and put your second coat on? It's no different than this, right? No different than this. Yes, I will do this too. Distress and oxide I will end up doing. So I want to do that. And then I'm going to also blend it with oxide. Okay, so get ready for this. There is translucency in this, meaning it is not completely opaque. If I go in now with my oxide, there's a milkiness to this ink. I can't get the same levels of the shade. I find when you put this in, it gives you great coverage, but I can't build depth like I can with distress ink. Oxide will just give me this beautiful pink layer, but it's like I put mixed some milk in it, right? I mixed some milk in it. I'm gonna set up my heat gun because I want to show you this, right? Yeah, we'll work on fixing the list. I just thought I was awesome and I put it up there that it was gonna work, but I've never done that before. So I don't know why it didn't share it. And I worked until like 2 o'clock last night or this morning trying to get all the stuff I promised you guys done. Because the other thing I'm still working on a Christmas line, my Christmas line with 49 and Market. So I want to do all the things. Sometimes it just takes me a lot longer because I'm working on 50 things at the same time. Okay, now that page will go flat again, right? It's just because I added that heat. I'm going to go in, I want to show you now with Pick Raspberry how I could start building depth by putting more color on top. That I can make it light, like look at very light up here, and then darker. And you don't really do that with oxide, okay? Do you see the difference, the depth in the color with the distress ink as opposed to the oxide? So now let's lay that stencil on, but I wanted to get, because this is not a stencil that I might switch this one out. Let's go in with this one. And now I'm going to blend some pattern so that you can see what this looks like. Sorry if I'm shaking it like a Polaroid picture. So this side is regular distress. This side is going to be oxide. And then I'm going to show you watermarking. These stencils are my stencils. They're Vicky Booten exclusive. You can only get them on vickybooten.com. I know that it said they were sold out. I did restock it because, like I said, we're in the middle of doing all that, and it's just going to take a little bit. But there's going to be some great stuff. I have some beautiful stencils up there, mine and the ones, some that I've bought, that I'm going to be using during all of this that I'll have posted. But I want you to see if you can see the layering of the tone on tone. So do you see the difference with these two inks? Right? You get like a softer blended effect with the distress, and then the oxide is definitely way more opaque. So what we're going to do now is also show you watermarking, because the whole magic with distress ink is that they also are water reactive. So when you use water with regular distress, you are just going to have this kind of layer of lighter dots in it. When you put it on oxide, depending on the color, because it's a blended ink, sometimes you'll get a whole ink separation and you're going to see the milkiness. So let me show you that. This is foundations paper. It has a light coating on it. So if you were looking for something that would be similar to this, would be like Bristol paper, okay? So you could get like a Bristol, and you could have, I want to make sure I don't blend those together. You ready? This is fun. So have your paper towel ready so you can pick it up. And let's do some watermarking on here as well. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to lift it with my paper towel. Not rub it, lift it. And that will show you the other magic with distress ink and oxides, is that you can also do these fun techniques with it, right? Very fun. So I think this is perfect for swatching my distress ink. Like I said, you could sit and play with just this all night. I am not baking it like a cookie. I just want to take some of that moisture away, and I'll let this dry. Okay. So the paper's thick enough that it didn't go through to the other side. But I love that we know that this is picked raspberry. We'll make a note that this is oxide, and that you can just see how these react differently. Every single distress oxide is going to react differently with water. Like there are some, like if you use a green, you will see the yellow and kind of blue-gray separate. With the pink is not that bad at all, right? So it's one of those things. You could do a whole book, which I think would be a great task, is do a whole book using swatching just your distress ink. So what do we need to do on here? We need to write that this is distress ink. This is distress oxide. Oops. Okay. This is watermarking. This is oxide. This is distress ink. So we know that these are stamped. We know this is blended. You could put notes too. You could even put blended, and stenciled. Stencil 1L, right? Stenciled. So I love this in my book. Just that, right? Look at all that. I love stencils. And remember, we have part 1 and 2 because I'm going to do this task with my oxides. I actually will do this task multiple times because the other thing I want to see is blending to see what colors we can get. But you're going to see the difference when you do oxides. I don't think you will get the crispness of secondary colors like you do with this. Happy birthday, Carissa. So we'll leave this one. I'm going to leave these 2 pages are going to be for distress. Okay. And I'm setting that aside. It's a great place to start. Set it aside. I will do the back page with a blend so that those 4 pages, front, 2 middle, and back, are all with distress ink. And now we're going to move on, I think, to, what do you think? Watercolor is what I think. What do you think? Find your inks, clean it up. Going to wipe my space down because I am crazy like that. I have to have some semblance of organized. Who played along with me? What did you discover? Share something maybe you discovered that you hadn't discovered before. Are you new to distress ink? I am a lover of Tim Holtz and Ranger. So I use a lot of those products, right? I use a lot of those products. So the other thing, when I clean my stencils too, not everybody does, I do. When I clean my stencil, I clean it on something dry so I am not reconstituting the ink and having to clean up a bigger mess. So it's always either on a paper towel or, like I said, I have these cloths. So now that's clean. I didn't put it on my craft mat and then have a whole bunch of mess. It just makes that way easier, right? And we're not going to talk about all the techniques we could do with this because we could have used this and done lots of fun things, but that's for another day. And I've also had tons of videos, if you're new here, using distress ink because I'm a fan. I'm definitely a fan. There we go. I've discovered that I get easily overwhelmed making basic decisions like choosing 5 colors. And Lisa, do you see why? That's important. Don't use the whole rainbow. It's totally okay if you decide to only use 3 colors. It might be even better. And I think that is part of the learning. Do you think you would do better if you were only using 3 colors as opposed to 5? Do you see why I used the palette that I did? Because it's very close to primary colors. So they're going to blend and make, I'm not going to make mud. My color palette's still going to look pretty rainbow. But we're going to do a whole class too about mud, making mud and seeing the results that we can get from blending and seeing the color blend. I use only 4 colors and 1 is a neutral. I don't have a lot of oxide, so I will see how the neutral works. I love this. What neutral is it, Karen? I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Watching first and absorbing the ideas, then we'll probably rewatch and play at the same time. I love it, Maureen. What was life before distress ink? I'm telling you, and you think how long I've been doing this, Stephen? I have grown with Tim's palette. Like, I have been doing this, I think, around the time that his basic palette came out. And I've been teaching with distress. Do you remember this? There was, well, yeah, you should remember. There was that shop that was by the lake. What do you call that in Toronto? By the lake, right? In Toronto, there was a shop down there, and I went and taught a whole distress ink class all day. And back then, we were limited. The color palette was, like, I remember my favorite colors were broken china, peeled paint, shabby shutters. Like, I think the palette might have been about 10 or 15 colors then, and I loved it, right? All right, let's move on to watercolor. So I'm going to opt for, out of my stack, I'm going to use watercolor paper. Hi, Angie Blom, too, and Steven. I love that you guys, so many of you here tonight. So, if you watched my first video, I bought a pad of watercolor paper and a pad of mixed media paper. The factors that were important to me when purchasing those was the heavier the weight, the paper, the better. So that when we put a lot of wet on here, that it still would hold up. Am I missing any questions? I'm sorry if I am. And I know some of you can't stick around all night, but the video will be recorded. You can come back and watch. The other thing, like I said, is I'm not going to do everything tonight, but everything that I do as I practice and play in here, because sometimes it's hard live that I'm chatting the whole time and it's not just me thinking about it. So I like to do it, what I do live with you, and then I like to revisit some of the things I discovered. Like that whole ink blend, when we layered the stencil, that to me was like, oh my goodness, the whole world of ideas that popped up there. I love that, okay? So I will make sure that I document it. Here we go. Watercolor. So what do you need now? You need water. I saw that some of you are using a palette, like a hard palette. So you might have different watercolors than I am using. I am using these ones that are just what I tell you, Winsor & Newton. So they're not the cheapest watercolors. They're definitely not the most expensive, but depending, pigments all cost different amounts of money. So these ranged, I think, in Canadian dollars, like from $8 to $12 per tube. These are heavily pigmented. When you put these out, I recommend getting a paint palette, because you can put little, and I will. One of the things I'll do, I just didn't grab it tonight, and I don't know if I can find one handily. But what I will do is put the colors down so that they will dry and I can use them as a more stable base. Because when you're watercoloring and you're using full wet pigment, it is harder to control the amount of pigment that you're using. So if I put these out, so make sure that they could be separated, because there's a binder and the pigment. So have you ever opened your paints and like a clear jelly will come out? That is the binders have separated. So that's one thing you want to watch for. But you want to pick a paint palette, and I would like you to put color down, right? And just let it dry, because then you can use that as your paint palette. But for tonight, I'm going to put that down. My yellow, we will end up writing these down, is, I think it's cadmium. What is it? It's some weird thing. This one, remember, it is called Jamboge, Jamboge, Jamboge. Rock on, Jamboge. Hue. That's weird. And then this one is cadmium orange. Right? So we'll see. Like, look at this yellow on here. Look how dark that looks. Right? It looks like brown. And then let's put down our permanent rose. You're using Dollar Store Mixed Media Spiral Book by Color Factory, and I'm finding spritzing with water works better for stamping. Explain that one to me. I don't understand what you were saying there, and I want to. And then this is turquoise. Somebody squeezed the heck out of this in the store, and I didn't even notice, but I just grabbed it. Turquoise. And I would really recommend having a bigger palette or mixing it off your palette, because when we get into playing with these watercolors, we're going to mix our colors. And my favorite is Prussian blue. I love this color. See, I squeezed out some of the binder. So am I missing anything? Any questions? Question. Forbes art journaling, or for us art journaling novices, if we cut our paper to make a book, how do we know which paper is which? Are they very distinguishable? Mine are. So I can tell the watercolor because it's heavier and it has a texture because this is cold press. So when they make it, it is a textured watercolor. Hot press will have a smooth finish on it, which will be closer to my foundations paper. My mixed media paper is not as heavy as this and the texture is different. Now we can watercolor, and when I swatch these, I'm going to swatch them on all the papers. For tonight and for us, I'm going to only do it on the watercolor, but I'm going to repeat this technique on all 3 papers just so I can see how they react on the different papers. And then I'm going to write notes all over it because that's the important part, write the notes, right? So we're going to start where you could draw boxes. Like I could go in here because I have 5 colors, right? So let's say I want to do something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we can just make them fun, right? So now look at, by just doodling a bit, it looks artsy. So I can make this artsy, so maybe you don't have a stamp because you just found me on the Facebooks and you're like, I'm kind of new to this. Biggest thing is this, your pen needs to be permanent ink. It needs to be waterproof. So if I go and I do this, we can paint in here. We can also, we'll stamp and paint it wet. So with watercolor, we're going to talk about all the things. So we're going to do a dry, where we paint it dry. I want you to paint it where it's wet on wet. So it's going to be dry and wet. And then we can do where it's wet on wet. So let's talk about this. These ones, so I don't know, I got to work through it. So let's do the things. Let's just do a swatch first. And I'm going to write my colors down before I do this. See, I'm getting ahead of myself, so I want to, so you guys understand what I'm talking about. So I'm going to do this. And then this one is Gamboge hue. This one is Cadmium. Cadmium orange. This one is Permanent Rose. This one is Turquoise. I'm writing before I actually paint because, did I spell that right? And remember my favorite, Prussian blue. This is going to be wet on wet. And I'm going to explain that. And then the next thing, I'm prepping my page a little bit. I'm going to stamp the circle. Ink. So a permanent black stamping ink. And I'm going to do a little circle. Oh, look what I did. I pressed too hard. I'll clean the middle of my stamp. Just a piece of paper, right? If that really bothered me, I could always come back and redo this page, but really at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You know me. It bothers me. So is Prussian blue or Persian? Prussian blue. So wet on wet means I'm going to paint water in the square and then I'm going to float my paint into it. And then we're going to do where we put the paint dry and then add water. Okay? Let's give this just a quick blast, because even though it's permanent ink, it is kind of like an oil based. So I don't want to pull any of that ink and make my page gray. So again, I am using a watercolor background. Okay, so clean brush. I'm going to use a round brush for this. We are going to float water in our square. So we're going to paint wet on wet. So do one at a time. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to pull out that pigment. And I'm going to just float my color in there. And leave it alone. Okay, so wet on wet, it floats in there. Clean your brush and go in and do your little float of water in your square. And now I'm going to go in with my cadmium orange. Watercolor, I'd say, is one of the hardest mediums to work with because it really is about controlling pigment and water to get results. It takes people a long time to master watercolor. The other thing I want to talk to you guys about is not every art medium is created equally. If I'm using a $100 set of watercolor, I'm not going to get the same results as I will with a dollar store set of watercolor. Because I'll tell you, most watercolors at the dollar store are not true watercolor. They're going to be more like a gouache. And you'll notice, like, these are transparent. The pigment is transparent. I can see through. It stays true. The color variation is the same yellow. I'm just getting darker and lighter depending on the amount of pigment versus water. But I don't have a chalkiness to it. It's translucent. Okay? No, not with watercolor. Like if you watch watercolor artists, they use the same water. Okay, so I'm going to go in here. And like I said, I went to school for fine arts. I went to school for graphic design. I went and did a lot of watercolor classes, but I am by no means a pro watercolor painter. So a lot of it is just trial and error, right? And practice and play. So now we're going to have a good reference, right? I can drop that in, but this is wet on wet. So it's way more forgiving. It's going to flow around your water. You can see Rachel's saying she always has 2 cups of water. So your lighter colors would go in one and then her darker. Because yeah, if you go back to yellow and your water's really dirty, you're going to pull that pigment in there, right? I love watercolor too. It just, for some people, it can freak you out a little bit, right? Because it is a harder medium to master. But when you're using these wet watercolors, look at that. The turquoise. Oh my goodness, I love it. Okay. And now I want you to see my Prussian blue. I love this color so much. Oh, isn't that delicious? I'm going to try my yellow blended out, leaked out a little bit. So, oop, there's so much pigment in these, right? that I might make a bigger mess. Just go with it, Vicky. Leave it alone. They're very Vicky colors. They are. And the other thing is, though, it's a good palette for mixing. It's a good palette for mixing. So those are just out of the tube, wet on wet. So now I'm going to do dry, and then you add the water, right? So I'm going to go back to my palette. I'm going to take, my brush is obviously wet, right? But let's go in here and just paint that pigment on like that, right out of the tube. So I would only do like a dry brush, more for detailing. It would not be to cover. And then you can pull the pigment in with water, okay? So I'm going to do that too, so I get just a truer or more vibrant effect. So this is dry background, putting your pigment in. I would use this generally for detailing because I want like a deeper representation of the color. And then you can pull it. See? Pull the pigment in there. And then let's do that with our permanent rose. Right, so that is on dry. There's a hair in there. And then I can pull the pigment in the center. You can go in. Here's the other thing with your watercolor. It's all about really controlling your water and your pigments. So this is the turquoise. And then we can just pull some of that pigment in there. And then your Prussian blue. So your swatching doesn't necessarily have to be work. Like say you only have a little bit of time and you want to do something, go and swatch some of your mediums. Because I feel like it's a good reference, like you need it for a reference so you know what the colors look like, right? And then hopefully you didn't stamp a mess like I did on that one. Okay. So one of the other things we could do on the side here, what is the difference in tube versus pan? Usually the pigment load in the tube is you have a ton of pigment, and I find using a wet medium as opposed to the pan style, and there again, depending on the quality of the pan, some can be chalky. It's literally a preference. When I went to school, we didn't have pans. We bought all tubes. We set up our whole tray, which we just squeezed it in, and I used it all dry for the most part. Like we would put it in the pan, and then so you could really rub your brush on there to pick up pigment. So you can do it tubes, and you can use them as dry. You just would set up your palette. So find a palette. That's what you call it, right? A palette. Put your pigment in, and then you can be mixing it. I like when you have a big mixing surface on your palette as well. Okay. Let's do a whole kind of blend here now. So I'm going to start, and I'm just going to lay some water on the side here and start floating some pigment. Okay. So just putting some water down, leave some white spaces, and let's go in here and pick up, and I'm going to kind of build a rainbow. So I'm just going to touch my brush now in there and let that kind of float down. then let's pick up some of the orange and let's float that in. And you can just touch some of the orange into your yellow, touch some of your yellow into your orange. Clean my brush, put some more water here because it can soak in. Right, and now I'll pick up some of the pink, touch it in. Nope.
Oh, Sonny's coming and your food's here.
That's my husband. Are you done? I am not done. And then let's start from the bottom and we'll build that up. So now I'm going to throw some of that turquoise in there. And some Prussian from the bottom up. You can blend them in a little bit, just move that around. Reduce your water, maybe drop, because you know what I find is interesting, that turquoise looks very blue. It's not very green, is it, comparatively to like other turquoises? Like to me, that turquoise needs a little bit more yellow in it. So let's see when we throw. For me, turquoise would be more like this. So now we can see where if we blend, right, we can make some new colors. And you could blend it on your palette. I'm going to pick up some of that pigment. And then I can deposit some more color in there. So I often, if I'm wanting to control some of my water, I will wick some of my water out and then redeposit some pigment. So I do want that to be a little bit more. Want that pink to show up a little bit more there. So I can lift a little bit of that too. And then add some more of that turquoise in. because all I'm probably going to do with, I'm only going to do one page with my watercolor. Okay, I'm only going to do one page with the watercolor. But yeah, for sure, we can go up here, right? We can take our Prussian blue and then a little bit of that pink to make a nice purple. Look at that. And we can deposit some purple in there too. And then what happens if we take some of the pink with some of the orange, and make a little bit of a salmony color too, right? And then let's blend something down in our blue. What happens, because now I'm going to take some orange with some of that Prussian. Ooh, look at that. Look at that deep kind of emeraldy green. Look at that. So I bought these at Michael's because I figured that is a place everybody could go and find the same colors that I'm using. So when you get in here, you can just make a little color blend, right? So we have our yellow up here. What other color do you want? What about yellow and purple? Let's take this purple that we made, and we can make kind of an earthier tone. Look at that. Right? With some of this purple that we did. And what do we get up here? Look at that. Now we have kind of like a foresty green. Look at that. So I just want you to go in and just play, right? And I'm going to leave this to dry now. Just going to set it aside to dry. Sometimes you need to know when to just walk away. Just lift in that color, because that's, look at, and then it even blends in and you start to get, and this is what we're going to do with some of our backgrounds when we pick our palette. But for right now, look at, you can even take some of the cleaner water and you can drip that in there a little bit. To make it look pretty. And then just set it aside to dry. Okay. And then just leave it, let it dry. But you have a swatch. You can see now that's your watercolor. A lot of the other techniques we're going to do is going to build on that. So we did a little bit more with our distress ink, but we don't need to do that necessarily with. I'm not going to obviously paint on the back of this one right now because it will create a mess. Because it's wet and you can't really heat. I don't use your heat gun on your watercolors. You just have to have patience. Watercolor is all about patience. So I'm going to set that aside to dry. Boop. And the last one that we're going to work on tonight. Question. What is the circle? What is the circle dry on dry? So wet on wet is when we put water down on the page and we float the pigment in. The dry was using pure pigment with no water to float it in. It's just two different ways. It's such a small space, you can't really see it. So you don't have to do it if you don't want to, Irene, okay? Now we have to, the last thing, well, we have two things left to mask. I am going to use mixed media paper for the markers. Let's do our markers, okay? What is Lil? What did she say? That just keeps getting better. Mine would be no, it wouldn't though, Lil. And I've taught you this. Do you not remember blow don't suck? Lil and I made art with the bubble blowing technique. And she was doing it just to appease me. But I'm not sure if she really loved the technique, but she did the thing. So let's do this quick first. Okay, we're gonna put our acrylic paints. We're gonna do our acrylics. And I have a cheat in here because I freaking love fluorescent. So this is my palette with my acrylics. Okay, so I'm gonna write them down again. My yellow for this one is cadmium yellow medium hue. So let's write that down. Cadmium yellow medium. And then we have cadmium red light. Cadmium red light. And then we have this one has all these, let me see where the English is on this one. That's the second one. So this color is called Quina Rose. Quina Rose. Quina Rose. And then we have turquoise blue. And then we have, of course, my Prussian. In a perfect world, if I was swatching these paints, I'd also say what brand it is. I'm going to go with a flat brush with this technique now. Okay, a flat brush so I can pull my pigment across. Okay, I might clean my water out. Let's start with clean water. So do that if you need to. I have a sink across from me. I'm going to get clean water. Do me a favor as well. I'm dripping all over everything. Grab another sheet of paper, whatever you want it to be, because it's for the markers. I'm going to do a smooth paper, so I'm going to use my foundations. And I have this mini page, right? I have this mini page. So I just want this handy, because when I go to use my white markers, I need to have some kind of pigment on here, right? So I'm going to put quickly, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this quick so it dries. So I'm going to take some of my Prussian blue and I'm just going to do this. Okay? Prussian blue, watercolor, let it just dry. Because I want it to look pretty, I will do that. Okay? The other thing I'm going to do is, hello, sir.
Why do you have that on you?
Because I'm working. Why are you bugging me?
Is stuff flying up on you? Is it that kind of...
Yes, it's the kind of art we're making. I have the towel over my shoulder. Rich is concerned. I'm going to take...
How big a mess are you making?
A big one. How was your sports?
Look at my eyeball.
Yeah, that's nice, hon. I'm working.
I couldn't see out of my eye.
Everybody tell Rich that it's time for me to play with my friends, not to talk to Rich. There's water in here, okay?
I got you the right sandwich, so you'll be happy.
Thank you. I haven't had supper yet, so he went and got me something. I'm just throwing some ink down. And then, because I'm not going back to distress, I can contaminate this pad or use the same blending tool, because I will just wash it after. But this is so we can draw on these with the white marker. I want you to see what the marker will look like on these, okay? And then I'll write what they are. Okay, so that one was oxide, one was regular distress, and then one is going to be Prussian blue. So what you're going to need is you need a palette for these as well, right? You have to put these on something. So I have somewhere my craft mat. He's adorable. He's a funny dude, right? I'm like, dude, I can't talk to you right now. The athlete's good, but he likes to come down because he likes all you guys. So he likes to come down so you can say, hi, Rich. How are you, Rich? And then I just told him to leave me alone. So there's that. So look, I'm just throwing this on here like this so that I can put my paint on somewhere. So let's start with the yellow. Make sure that your paint is mixed. Right, and we'll put a little bit of that down. Put a little bit of our orange down. I love these paint boogers. I keep them. I will make art out of paint boogers. Paint booger. Okay, a little bit orange. Here's the big thing too with the acrylic paint. They go a long way. You do not need much. Like that's way too much paint for what I'm doing tonight, but I put it down here, so I'm using it. Oop, look what I just did. Prussian. I forgot turquoise. Just like Nick. He likes to come, has to say add his 2 cents. And then I'm like, okay, dude, bye. Bye. I'm going to put this on dry. So I'm going to put it on wet. I'm going to wet my brush, and I'll tell you why, because I'm going to have to put the next color on. My brush is going to have to be wet between each color. So wet brush, okay? You don't want it sopping wet. Let's pick up our paint. And we're just going to do a stroke of paint. So we can see that palette, okay? Or swatch. Now, why I love my acrylics is they're very opaque. Is the opacity, right? It is... and I did not use foundation. This one is just the mixed media paper. It's cadmium yellow medium, cadmium red light, quina rose, turquoise blue, Prussian blue. It is a mix of I love Amsterdam Expert Series and I love Liquitex Basics. So that's what they are, okay? And remember we were talking about not all, the more money you spend on your art supplies, usually the better quality, because pigments can be really expensive. So if you get a really good red pigment, and some pigments, depending where they have to find them in the world, that's why when you go in and you buy certain paints, why you're like, they're all acrylic paint. Why is this one $21 and the other one's $14? It's because the pigments could be more expensive, right? The pigments could be more expensive. So that's why your price differential. And then we're just going to do the pink. I'm not going to do a lot of color blending or anything with my acrylics. We're just depositing. See what I almost did because I put it in the wrong spot. So here's my turquoise. Oh, I love it. Turquoise. What were the two blue distress ink colors? They were Prize Ribbon and Mermaid Lagoon. Prize Ribbon and Mermaid Lagoon. And then get ready for it because this is one of my favorite all-time colors, Prussian blue. So this is very opaque. Maybe I will do so I can show you with water. So this almost looks black, right? But when I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to add, we're going to dilute the paint a little bit, okay? So I'm going to do this next one on watercolor. Or foundations. Let's do it on foundations. You can use distress paint. It just, not all paints are the same. Do you remember when we talked about water-soluble crayons? How they're all different? You can use anything that you have. I want you to use whatever you have. If you get into and if you decide to join me for gel plate printing, I'm going to tell you, you're going to want to invest in some of these paints because I still think, so I'm going to do this now with the paint on my brush. I'm going to load my brush. I'm going to add water because I want you to see now your, acrylics when they're diluted. I'm going to have to change my water because I have to go back up to yellow, right? Use whatever you have. Use whatever you have. These are what I have, but I have all of them. Like, right? Don't forget, I do this for a living. I also have been making art forever. I'm going to water down or clean water. So I've been making art for a long time. I have a very extensive collection of mediums. Do I think you need to go out and buy all of the things? No. Do I think investing in these paints, will you get your return? Yes. So if you did decide to go out and buy them, would I feel bad because you went out and bought those and spent money? No, because I do think it's a good value. So I'm adding now, just doing these with water. Okay, so I just want you to see those when they're not straight out of the tube. Now let's go in with our orange. Every paper you use your mediums on, you're going to get different results too. That's another thing that's going to factor in when you're using this stuff is how much water, what type of paper, the quality of your paints, how the viscosity of your paint. Is it light body, meaning it pours right out of the bottle? Is it a heavy body? Is it medium body? All those things factor in, right? All those things factor in. Let's go in now with our pink. Some of these paints will be very opaque. Some will be very translucent because it's all dependent on the binder. What is the pigments, the dry pigments, what is added to make them stick together. Those things can factor in. Oh, I used this one. Oh, did I mess up? I messed up. No, I think this was a Prussian, right? Yeah, that's the Prussian. I love Prussian blue so much. It's almost like a turquoisey navy. And now we need our turquoise. because I want you to have, right, a little reference. That was right out of the tube dry. And that was with water. And I'm going to set these aside. The other thing I want is to put a little bit of, this is not going to be dry. I won't be able to do the bottom one right away. But I want that Prussian blue so you can see how the markers will write on this. So I'll try to brush that out so I can get it to be as dry as possible. Because not many markers will work on acrylic, right? So we just want to deposit some of that. I will try to see if my heat gun will make a difference, if I can speed that up. But I want you to see some of the paint markers and such on that, okay? And that first one was watercolor, right? I'm going to leave these on here for a minute. Now, the difference, watercolor, when these dry, I can reconstitute them and make pigment. When acrylics dry, you're done, right? So don't put a ton of your acrylic out. Put out what you're going to use. But I can't, like if this was watercolor and it all dried on here, when I add water on it, I can pull the pigment back out. With acrylic, it cures. They're not water, well, they're water soluble, but it is like a plastic, like acrylic. So when acrylic dries, it is cured. You can't pull that pigment back out by adding water. Watercolors, when all these dry, and you can see they're already getting that kind of little skin on it. When it dries hard, I can add water and use them again, right? Foundations paper, 110. I think it's a 110, but it's heavy. It's a heavy paper, right? I love peeling dried acrylic. Yes, if I leave these all on here to dry, because it's non-porous, I'll be able to peel that off. We could make art just from acrylic skins, right? So we'll leave this. I'm just going to move my craft mat. I almost put it on my floor. There would have been paint all over my floor. Let's see if we can cheat this. But remember, it's acrylic, so it cures. It doesn't really dry. So if heat might make it bubble, but I think that this will be okay. Why I'm trying to dry this is now I want to use our paint markers, right? But you can see when it's shiny, that's not dry. If I try to go over that with a marker, I am going to, my marker is going to pick up all that wet paint. So I'm trying to speed it along a little bit, but you really can't with acrylic. It's not like your watercolors and such, right? And it's thicker right here. So we have the next thing we're going to do, our last thing for swatching. Will I go through and do some more stuff? Yes, I will. But it's going to be the play part. So I might want to just do a little bit more discovery with how the paints work before we get into the actual prompts. So I said we had one more thing, right? And that was the markers. So I have paint markers for all my different pens, right? Oh my goodness, did I bring it down? I don't know if I left them upstairs. Hey, Rich! Let's see if he hears me. I ordered a new pen. And any of you guys out there will know this. My friend Lil Concar definitely understands this. I love stationery stores. Did I leave the packs of pens on the table? Can you bring them down for me? No, acrylic is not water reactive once it dries because it cures. So once it dries, it's permanent. So we're going to try some different things. So another thing you could add into your book if you wanted to is a sheet of colored craft or black. Let me grab something so I can show you. So I have some black foundations paper. I thought my husband would open the door to listen to me, and he was only wanting to listen to me or talk to me when he was coming to tell me stories about tennis. Did you guys notice that? And I know he could hear me, because what's it like in your house? If I whisper to my kids something, he'll hear me. But if I yell something to him, he won't hear me. I wonder if I'm alone in that. I'm just cutting this down, okay? 7 by 9.5 is my book size. Here we go. So, I can punch my holes later, but I want something for the white stuff, right? So you have different types of paint markers, right? Permanent markers. Why we want these is because they will write on top of acrylic, where not everything will. And the other thing is they're great for art marking, right? He's in the hot tub. Tony, he totally could be. Did I tell you, I don't know if you heard this story, my friend Lil, and the rest of you guys out there too, is my mother passed in August. I think it was August or July, August. And I got her jewelry, and she had some gold chains. Devin took some, and then I grabbed these ones because I feel like when I wear them, because I don't really wear necklaces, she's close to my heart. So do you want funny, Lil? Oh, look at this one is broken, so we won't be using that. I didn't even open it, but it totally busted off. So we will not be showing you the Sharpie one tonight, but I will show you my Poscas. So Riley calls me Two Chains. So it was really funny that I was doing a class or something, and one of the ladies referred to me as Two Chains, and I laughed my butt off. So to start these Posca pens, you need to, there's a valve in here, so you have to press the ink down, and then it releases the paint. But watch, because now, right, I've got lots of paint coming out of here. So what I love about this, right, is that we have this really nice opaque finish. So they are great for doing mark making. So this one we're going to write down is the Posca 3M. So Posca 3M. This is black foundations paper, but you also could use, well, the reason that this one's good too is it has that vellum coating on it. But if you're in the art supply store and you buy Bristol, it will have that coating on it. You know, like when you did your projects, what's that paper called that you would like put your project on for class? And it has like a coating on it. It's almost a little bit shiny. I just find the ink sit nicely on top of that, right? So that is the same, Posca 3M. This one, it's just going to be a wider barrel, right? This is a 5M. It's brand new. I haven't opened it. Let me show you. Poster board, Bristol board. That's what we used to call it, right? Did everybody call that Bristol board? Like the teacher would say, put it on Bristol board. And is that a Canadian thing, or do my American friends call it Bristol board too? I always wonder, because, right, some things are different. Like, we don't call it the same thing. So the white obviously is not going to show up. Poster board. I called it Bristol board. That's when we would go to the dollar store or whatever and grab that Bristol board. But it is Bristol paper, right? Is the brand or the type of paper that has the coating on it. Poster board. Bristol is a brand, but that's what we would call it, just Bristol. Bristol board. Like if we go to the dollar store and Devin would need it for a project, or Riley, I would refer to it as Bristol board. So this one is just going to be a thicker tip. So like I said, it's brand new. You just have to press it down till that valve opens up and releases the paint. I love Posca pens though. There it goes. Okay. So you can get a chisel end too, but this is all I'm ever going to do is, what is the tip called? What is that tip called? Felt tip, or when it goes into the point? So then, hello. Not like it's a little bit wider, but look at this, isn't all that much finer, right? And this one is Posca 5M. Right? Do the same thing. Okay. The VBoo paint markers. Thank you, Bullet. Thank you, Carmel. I'm like, what are those called? So I love these too. So these are the VBoo paint pens. Hello. They're VB pen. It is I draw on shoes with these. I draw on the aprons. This one is a little dry. Right? Ooh, look at the blue on that black. I love it. It is, the tip is not in great shape because I was drawing on aprons with it, but okay. So if you have something like this, they're good pens. It is one of those things. Not everything that came out, right? What is sold out? What's sold out in the shop? The pens. Let me see what I have. Remember, I told you, Alice, that we're restocking a lot of stuff because I'm not sure what the inventory was. So I probably have them. And I'm also working on, if you have followed American Crafts, parts of it were sold. So we're just trying to figure out what's going on with things. In typical, Vicky has no clue. It's all just kind of up in the air, some of the stuff, right? So there. I will put that in my book because that shows me the pens. Now, I'm going to take a white one and I'm going to draw on here so you can see the difference, right? Do I use these pens to paint? No. I use them to doodle and art mark. So when we go and do our backgrounds and we want to add details, or I want to write, and I want to write on acrylic, that's when I would use my paint pens. I don't paint with them. You can color and do all the stuff with and then use like a line pen on top, but it's not how I use them. So let's look at it on watercolor, right? This is on regular distress. This is on oxide. Okay. And this is on, oh, see it on acrylic? Because acrylic has sealed this paper. It's not porous anymore because now it's like putting gesso down. So look at how beautiful it is on acrylic. Do I need them for on here? They're soaking in. This is not sealed because it is a water soluble, water reactive ink. So that ink is soaks through the ink from the pen, the paint from the pen soaks through the ink that's deposited into the fibers of the paper for all of them. It's a little bit better on the watercolor, but bam, on your acrylic, because your acrylic has sealed the back of the paper and it's sitting on top. But the reason why you need a paint pen is if I used some other types of white pen, it would never dry on here. It would never dry. Again, because the acrylic creates a non-porous surface that you would need a permanent pen that would dry on there. So that's why this Posca will dry on here. And when you get into doing your art marking and all the rest, right? It really pops. And it's hard sometimes to find something you could do that with. So this is, we'll go in, this is acrylic. So Posca on acrylic. Posca on oxide. Posca on distress ink, and Posca on watercolor. Now you will find that this pen will write on almost everything. I love my Micron pens, but you can get, all you heard was you need the Posca if you want to write on acrylic, if you want to art mark on it. And I like that they're not shiny. Some of these, like if I could have got that Sharpie to work, it's shiny. And I don't like shiny. So I love that Posca. Can you explain marking over alcohol markers, Copic? Some white is great, many not. Question, can you explain marking over acrylic markers, i.e. Copic? Some, well, because some of them probably are, I don't think most Copics wouldn't work on top of this unless they were opaque, like a metallic. A metallic is not going to be translucent, right? So again, like everything, you have to test and swatch. Every tool, if you go to the store, look at right across from me, because I always have something, because I love my stationery stuff. So I bought this at the airport. So I bought, because they're cute, and they're highlighters, and these are Smensels. They're scented. I would swatch all of this, and then I would take all of them and put them on, do something like this. So then you're gonna have, I can smell these too. They smell good. See, I'm an 80s kid. I need my Lisa Frank and my sticker book, and then all my smelly stuff. So everything that you buy should go in this journal that we're doing. You should have just a swatching book, like a whole reference. And remember what I'm going to use? Remember I told you I don't know where I put it. That other journal is going to be my swatching journal. We're back at school, I'm telling you. So what have we done tonight? Let's talk about it. Did I mark everything? Oh, let's look at the Vicky Bouton on here too. So I think this one will show up. These will work. But do you see how much these are way juicier? And they might shine, dry a little bit shinier. But those totally are going to take a lot longer to dry. But look, that'll work. it'll work on all this stuff because it's like using your acrylic. But do you see how it starts to soak into the paper and you kind of have a halo effect around it? This is not, it's sitting on top of the acrylic. Do we need a black Posca pen? Yes, I have one. If you want to write on acrylic and you want to write on yellow acrylic, right? I have hot pink, but really remember, we're trying to limit. I don't want you to have to go buy all the things. So if you bought a white Posca and a black Posca, I think that would be magic. I think that would be magic. I have a Sharpie, and then I want like a finer pen. I just bought some gel pens that are supposed to be awesome for mixed media, so we'll be using those. I'll show you at some point. But this will be a little reference, right? This is garbage because it's messy. I have it on black so you could see them. So I'll set these aside to dry. All this is going to go in my book, and then I could do something later on the back, test something else. I'll punch the holes in this and it's going to go in my book, or actually it's going to go in my book like this. I'll punch the holes down this side, and then I could do maybe my acrylics, put my acrylics on, look at, I'll show you right now. Boop, boop. I think they should have some juice left in them. So where are the binding holes going on this one? This side, okay. So let's see. Let's see if it's watered down. You're not going to see much of it. Let's see if we put less water. And that's acrylic on black. I'm going to take it right out of the tube. Here's my acrylic on black, because watercolor would not show up on here. Oxide would, regular distress will not. Okay, regular distress will not. Am I going to add a lot of black in this book? No, because it's not my jam. I am a rainbow and butterfly kind of girl, so a lot of times you're not going to really see me using a ton of black. Oops. And then you make a mess like that. Making some good mud now. And then let's put our turquoise on. See, if there's no water in it, you will have way more pigment deposited. Yellow's always going to be a tricky one too. Some of my yellow acrylics, have you ever found they're pretty transparent? Not all of them have a lot of opacity. And then I don't even know if you'll see that Prussian on here, because it's pretty close to a black anyway, right? There. So now at least I have something on the back of that page. So I will be punching my holes on this side. I'll put my markers there. The other thing that I will do is set that aside to dry, right? I'll do something on the back of this because everything I did was on the fronts. So I will do something on the back, maybe brayer the paint just to see it. I don't know. But those are all of my acrylics. I have swatched my markers. Set that aside because some of that has to dry. That was my Posca pen on there. For distress, we did stamping of distress ink, stamping of oxides, blending it with the blending tool, watermarking stencil. One of my favorite things I did tonight was like blending the colors for some mixing. I'm going to do it with oxides on this page, and then I might do one more thing with my oxides. And then we have our watercolor. Look at it dry now. How fun is that? And I did the drips in there. And It did not bleed through, so I can still do something on the back of that. So at the minimum, I want you to swatch out everything that you used. At the minimum, I want you to swatch out. If you want to explore, if you find something really fun along the way and you want to kind of explore it a little bit more, do extra pages. But this will be what you'll work on leading up to Wednesday, when I think, what was our next one on the list? I didn't print it off. It is abstract art. It's going to be abstract art, and it's going to freak you out a little bit. We're going to do multiple examples of the abstract art, right? You used ink on vellum. Do all the things, right? Swatch it on all your different papers. See you later, Nita. And I'm going to flip the camera now and say hearty farewell. Look at my mud water. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to hold this so you don't look up my nose. Sorry, my cord is caught. Hi. Sorry, friends, cord is caught. So you get to see my hand for a second there. You have to start somewhere. So for this one is, I think a great place to start is figuring out what you're using and how they kind of work with each other. We didn't really blend watercolor with acrylic. Could you do that in your swatching? You could. You could blend watercolor with acrylic. You could put acrylic with your distress inks, whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. Things I want to remind you is, don't forget, thank you, Diana, is don't forget to thumbs up the video, because this is just a whole bunch of free content, and the best way that you can do something to give back is to make sure that you're subscribed to my channel and to give a thumbs up to the video. Also, any interaction is good interaction, so when the video is done, you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the regular comments section. I will be back on Wednesday with the next round of and then by Wednesday and next Friday you'll have tons of stuff that you could work on over the weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. I just find this was basic. Like, I'm going to go in, I made a lot of mud up here, the colors bled, so I'll probably do more of that on the back. I'll do more of that on the back. So another helpful tip, so you can find these as easy reference, because you know I do a lot of videos, is to start a playlist. You can go into your YouTube and you can start a playlist, and you can call it the March Mixed Media and Art Journaling series. And then you can put all the videos in there, and then you'll have a quick reference when you want to come back and check it out. Thanks so much for joining me. I will see you this coming Wednesday for the next round in the series. Any homework or any playing I do, I will film it so that there'll be some kind of documentation. So when I'm flipping through the book, you're like, how'd you do that one? I never saw that on the live. I'll make sure that I have it posted somewhere. Please share what you're making. I would love to see what you swatched. You can post them on the Vicky Booten Creative Community on Facebook. It's a private group. I'd love for you to come and join. If you post it on your socials, please tag me. Please tag Vicky Booten. And if you look at my last one, I did a couple of hashtags that hopefully, I don't remember what it was. I should have written it down, that I can track it. But I would love to see what you're making. And then I can go comment and tell you what a good job you did. So thanks so much, friends. Thanks, Natalie, for always being my sidekick. And I cannot wait to see what you make. This is going to be so much fun. So get your swatching done, and we'll be on to the next prompt and all the magic we can make. Have a wonderful weekend, guys, and we'll see you later.